This edition of the Impact Podcast is brought to you by ERI. ERI has a mission to protect people, the planet, and your privacy, and is the largest fully integrated IT and electronics asset disposition provider and cybersecurity-focused hardware destruction company in the United States, and maybe even the world. For more information on how ERI can help your business properly dispose of outdated electronic hardware devices, please visit eridirect.com. Welcome to another edition of the Impact Podcast. This is a very special edition of the Impact Podcast. I'm John Shegerian. We've got Ryan Serhant with us from $1 Million Listing, from Big Money Energy, and Sell It Like Serhant. He is a superstar in the real estate industry. He's a superstar in the media. Welcome to the Impact Podcast, Ryan.
Thank you so much for having me. I love your energy. It's like you read my book or something.
Well, you think I read your book? I don't know. There's so much good stuff in here. I made so many markings. I actually confused myself. But I mean, these are great books. I'm just going to say from the top of the show, first of all, I'm a native New Yorker, so I'm the CEO of your fan club. I've loved you since the first season, and I love you what you're doing now in business, and I love your books. For any entrepreneur out there or wannabe entrepreneur, these are the books to read. For anyone who wants to be in sales, and by the way, we're all in sales because we're always trying to sell something, whether it's ourselves or a product that you have. These are the books to read. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm 58 years old, and I learned a shit ton from these books. So Ryan, you've got it right. We're going to talk about that today.
You look younger than me.
Well, I don't think so. First of all, there's no way this good-looking guy here should have ever been a hand model. Come on now. I mean, I don't even know how that even remotely happened. That's like the funniest thing ever.
Yeah, I needed to make money, man. And so in order to make money, I had to do whatever it took. And if I had to use my hands, I had to use my hands.
I mean, but how does a guy who's better looking than Ryan Reynolds is a hand model and not a movie star? You know,
Well, I
ridiculous.
challenge that statement.
I don't know about that, but look, you know, Ryan, before, you know, we get talking about both books, but of course we're here today to talk about Big Money Energy, which I love, BME, which you also say means big magnetic energy, which we're going to talk about as well. Talk a little bit about the backstory, where you were in 2008 and your meteoric, you know, backstory, how you really got to where you are today. I just love our business, you know, our readers, our viewers, our listeners who haven't seen you yet to learn more about you through your own eyes and words.
So I was born in Texas. I grew up outside Boston. My parents made me play every single sport known to man and take every single class ever because they wanted me to be well-rounded and try everything. I was terrible at every sport, and I was okay at school. I wasn't great. The one thing that I actually liked doing was theater, acting. I had a love for that. I made little movies with my brother. I forced him to do everything. My mom was my main camera person. It was, we had fun like that. And then, you know, I went to college. I was going to go to college for theater, but my parents wouldn't let me. So I went to a liberal arts school and majored in English and theater. And then when I graduated, I had, you know, money saved up from construction jobs every summer. My grandfather had died and left a few $1,000s to each of the grandkids. And so I basically said, okay, I got enough money to live in New York without having to get a job for like maybe a year or two. That's what I'm going to do, because I'd rather regret the things I did than the things I never tried. And I don't want to be 50 years old saying, man, I wish I could have tried the acting thing, because that was always my passion. And here I am as a actuary or something. Right. So, and I took, just to appease my parents, I did take the LSAT to go to law school. I took it twice. I bombed it both times. And I really did try. I really did study. It was just really, really, really hard. Right. So I went to New York, tried to become an actor, got onto a soap opera pretty quickly. They killed me off also quickly. I hand modeled. That paid me the most, actually. I held phones for AT&T. I held, you know, Nespresso capsules. I held phones. I was a stand-in for athletes' hands. It was a very strange time in my life. And then I basically just ran out of money, and it was go home, move home, which at that point had become Colorado, refigure out life. and then I guess get another job or figure out a way to stay in New York. And so that's what I did. I had a friend who said, don't become a bartender or waiter or get a temp job. Get your real estate license. And this was like the spring and summer of 2008.
Okay.
To get your real estate license. It's the greatest thing in the world. People buy apartments over the internet without even seeing them. And so I said, okay, I guess I can make my own hours that way. And so I got my license, and my first day was the day Lehman Brothers filed for bankruptcy in 2008. And the benefit to me was that I didn't really have a lifestyle to uphold. I was living like little check to little check anyway. So it's not like I had money invested, right? Life was just sort of, I lived in a 300 square foot box in Koreatown. So I just thought real estate was really, 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 really hard. But I became addicted to it because it's harder trying to be an actor in New York City.
Right.
You know where the worst rejection is? When people reject you to your face because of your face. With real estate, people said they wouldn't take apartments or they just wouldn't call me back, but it was because of the apartments. I don't think it was because of my eyebrows. So
right. So it was less personal. It was less
okay
personal.
with it. Yeah, it was less personal. And I think that's hard for a lot of people, but for me, it was way better than what I had been dealing with. And so I just stuck with it and I fell in love with it. I fell in love with the idea that I could make an income as a percentage of a sale price that has nothing to do with me by connecting people and talking to them while they're making a decision that they were otherwise probably going to make anyway.
Right.
That's a job. I'll do that job all day long. And most people then say, oh, but there's no salary, there's no benefits, there's no guarantees. I'm like, fuck salaries.
Right.
Benefits. Dude, I've never had a salary or benefit. No one's ever guaranteed me anything. Yeah. Right. I made $150 a photo with my hands. Like that was those were my big money days. And I just became obsessed with the business, and then it grew from there. So that's kind of the backstory, if you will.
That's awesome. And we're gonna go into the first book later, but we're here today to talk about your new book, Big Money Energy. I want to go into anecdotes from both books, but today it's Big Money Energy for our listeners who want to buy it. Obviously, you can go to bigmoneyenergy.com or to Ryan's website, Ryan Serhant, Serhant.com. Of course, this book is available Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, and other great bookstores. Also, I have to just say, at the top of the show, when we're off the air, Ryan made me aware that he's closing a deal while we're doing the show. So not only can he do the Impact podcast, but he's closing a deal. So this is like the $1 million listing impact version of Ryan closing a deal. So watch him multitask while he answers my questions. Ryan, why, after this national best-selling book that you wrote, Sell It Like Serhant, which is a great book, I read it through and through twice. Why Big Money Energy? Why post 2020, maybe one of the craziest, if not the craziest year in human history coming out of this, tragic pandemic that we've all gone through? Why Big Money Energy? Why now?
Sell It Like Serhant was a book that took me nearly 10 years to write. It was everything that I knew about how to sell. It was all my tips, all my tricks, all my strategies. It was really my sales Bible. And I had a lot of it written for a long time for my team. As I was hiring team members, teaching them how to sell, everything that I knew. And I really flushed it out and made it a book that was applicable to not just real estate, but to all sales and how to build a sales career. And then that book spawned the spin-off show on Bravo and an online sales course. The Sell It Like Serhant sales course has been huge with people all over the world learning how to sell with us and learning our tactics and strategies and increasing their lifestyles, right? Which has just been awesome. And then the pandemic hits and we're quarantined. And I'm talking to all of our course members, and I'm talking to a bunch of random people too, people I don't know, doing Instagram lives and just getting emails from people all day long. And a lot of people were being fired, furloughed, or just scared, right? What I heard the most was people were connecting their self-worth to their income. And I remember what that was like when I first started doing real estate. I didn't get into real estate because I liked Crown Moldings. I got into real estate because I needed to pay rent. And I didn't want to have a lockdown job that wouldn't allow me to do anything else. And real estate, I was told anyway, was you make your own hours. You don't have to go to an office, do whatever you want. Just sell things or rent things and get paid. And I thought that sounded pretty great. And so, But I remember too at that time, I had no confidence as an agent. I was barely even confident in my own skin as a person,
Right.
right? I had low self-esteem. It's super tough being in New York City. I lived in the worst apartment ever. Like I ate the same food all day long. I was totally embarrassed about not being able to make it, and I didn't want to go home. And so I carried that desperation on my sleeve, no matter how hard I tried not to. And as I was talking to everyone during quarantine, I felt like a lot of people kind of were starting to feel the same way.
Right.
And a lot of people were saying, listen, Ryan, even now, Salt Like Serhant gave us all the tools of the trade. You gave me my toolkit,
Right.
but my stomach is in knots and I don't know how to use the tools. My throat chokes up. My palms are sweaty. I turn bright red. No one's going to believe me. And I've got imposter syndrome, like all the self-doubt. And so big money energy is that unique set of qualities that every super successful person has that allows them to become the person they've always wanted to become.
So this
And
is
that's
the
what the book is.
toolkit. This is the mindset.
Yes. Yep. Toolkit and mindset. That's exactly right. That's what I told the publisher word for word. Right.
Got it right.
You can't just get a toolkit full of a bunch of tools and then go build a house. Right.
Yeah.
You need to learn how to build the house. And then you got to have the confidence in yourself to go put up that house.
Right. Right. I love it. Oh, I loved in the first book, now that we're going to be, obviously science is going to win. This vaccine's happening. We're going to get beyond this. And even though it's wonderful, you and I are doing this Zoom interview today and we're all living, on Zoom right now, but eventually we're going to move out of that again.
Yeah.
We're going to, and what I love, just back to your secret number 3, and I always tell this to our salespeople, get your face out of Facebook and go into somebody's face. Serhant secret number 3, never underestimate the power of face-to-face meetings. Sometimes emails and texts are not enough to get a deal closed. I mean, talk about that first big deal you closed, that the landmark story with the Chinese guy.
Well, in Big Money Energy.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was that light bulb moment for me. My whole life, honestly, I remember my entire life by deal. Like if you could say, Ryan, what happened in 2009? I'd say, oh man, I don't know. You're like,
I mean, your
right,
anecdotes.
When did you meet June? When did you meet June Shen? I'd be like, oh, March 15th, 2009.
Right.
Your life, you remember, because all these deals they're so traumatic.
Yeah.
So June I was basically just doing rentals, small, tiny sales, like 360,000, 390,000, like 600, 700, 800,000 in Long Island City, Queens. And I was posting open listings of beautiful apartments because that's what my training was. That's what I was told to do. And a woman from China named June Shen reached out and said that she was looking to make an investment for her daughter. Turns out she was looking to make an investment and buy a property for her daughter who wasn't even born yet, because that daughter would eventually go to NYU, right? As they do. So
everybody has a plan.
Everyone has a plan. And she was real. She worked in energy, like oil and gas. And she was coming to New York by herself, pregnant, and was going to come find an apartment. And she needed to work with someone. I had these cool listings that weren't mine. And she wanted me to show her around. It was like a total layup. But I'd never even had a layup before. I'd never even done a sale over, I think, $800,000 before. And her budget was $2.5 million. So I freaked out at first. But instead of telling her, oh, I don't really do sales like that, I've never done them before, I said, absolutely, 100%. Let me know when you're there. I'll send a car for you, right? Like anything I'd learned from the movies.
Right.
Like I've never done this before.
Right.
And I had a light bulb moment, man, where I was like, you know what? Like I could do this. I can do this job. I could become a power broker. I don't even know what that means, but I can become a real estate broker. I see all these super successful brokers who are just dominating all day long. Like, why not me? Right? Why not me? And that kind of became my inner mantra. No matter what, why not me?
That's such a good mantra.
And so I decided, you know what? I'm going to clean up. I went and got a suit at Macy's. I cleaned up my apartment. I rented a car on my credit card. It was terrifying. And I went and I did all my research. So I studied everything because I knew, all right, I can start acting like I've been doing this for 10 years, so that when she gets off her plane from China, she's with somebody who knows what he's doing. But how the hell am I going to get 10 years experience in a week? What is 10 years of experience? Right? 10 years of experience is just information. It's just
Right.
knowledge. You've been around the block. So I don't have deal experience, but what I can do, because this is what I did as an actor for all those years, I can memorize information. And so I figured out what apartments I was going to show her, and I walked that tour every day, all day for that entire week before she got there. I memorized everything, every fact about every building, the amount of apartments that were in each one, the sizes, the developers, the architects, if there were celebrities. I went into every coffee shop, met everybody, memorized the menus just in the off chance that she'd get hungry or need a drink. I could walk in with her in my mind, this is what I'm thinking, and go up and say, "Hey, Bob." And Bob would know me because I introduced myself every day for 7 days.
Right.
And, get her a matcha latte with this, that, and the other, and really, really hook her up because this is what I do, right?
The lifestyle.
Point of confidence.
Right.
And she showed up. She slept most of the time because she was jet lagged and pregnant.
Wow.
And she bought an apartment for just over $2 million. And we did that deal at like 3 a.m. at the St. Regis. And she asked me to bring her like McDonald's. And I'll never forget it.
You talked about standing in the lobby just in utter amazement with everything that was going on at the St. Regis, which is
it was insane.
Wow.
And so dude, it like totally crazy. And so I did that deal, and that's when I realized, like, you know what, like this is something that I can do.
You got
I got that was my first big commission check. It was $25,000, and it blew my mind. And I realized, you know what, there are more of these people. I can do a lot more of these deals, and I'm going to keep doing them. Over and over and over and over again.
That was it. We've got today, for our listeners and viewers out there, of course you know him, but if you don't, Ryan Serhant, the founder, CEO of Serhant, Big Money Energy is his new book. He's the star of $1 Million Listing New York. I'm a native New Yorker. I've been his fan since the first season. He's just amazing. You can also find Ryan and his colleagues at ryanserhant.com. Ryan, I love how honest you are in the book in all your anecdotes, and also all the props you give all the great people around you, including your mom, your dad, your stepdad, your brothers and your sisters. I love that you say, as a young boy, that they used to call you Crying Ryan, and you just said, "I'm not going to be Crying Ryan. I'm Ryan the Lion."
Yeah.
And is that something that just that you still do you play that over still? When you said, just when you're telling the June Shen story, I keep thinking, I'm not Crying Ryan. I'm Ryan the Lion.
Yeah, I don't think about that often anymore. No one calls me Crying Ryan, unless my employees, the people that work here, do behind my back.
But I mean, like, you play it back that's where you came from, and you even give credit to that in your books. That's still part of you. That stuff still stays part of your DNA, and you don't have a chip on your shoulder. You have a boulder on your shoulder. It always seems like.
Yeah, I think $1 Million Listing cast me in 2010.
Yeah.
Okay. I went to an open casting call with 3,000 agents, and it was really, really tough. And in November, they said, "Hey, we're casting 4 of you. Ryan, you're one of them. Congratulations. But just FYI, only 3 of you are making the final show." Okay. And it was me, Frederick Eklund, Michael Lorber, and then another person who didn't make it. And I was not Howard Lorber's son. And I was not Frederick Eklund, who'd been in the business for like 10 years, right? I was renting apartments. I did 1 sale to 1 Chinese lady. And I had 1 building at that point, which is kind of like my claim to fame. I took that 1 deal and I just freaking milked it. Talked about it left, right, and center. And that also taught me something about how to market yourself. But there was a lot of pushback to me being on $1 Million Listing the first season. There was a lot of people who said I shouldn't have been cast in the first place. There's a lot of people who said I wasn't a real broker. I'm not from New York. People were super mean. People are very mean in this city. You can be very, very tough. And I will never, ever, ever forget all of that. And so it pushed me to work even harder to not get cut on the first season. And it pushed me to be the absolute best broker possible, because up until very recently, people still said, he's just this reality TV guy. He's not a real broker. He doesn't do this, doesn't do that. Well, I was a couple minutes late to our podcast, just FYI, because I was just posting on Instagram that I just sold the second most expensive house in the history of the United States for just under $140 million.
Right today, right now?
Yeah, like 20 minutes ago.
Unbelievable.
So that's the deal that I'm working on, just making sure it's all clean, it's good, the buyer's happy, all that. Like,
Say that again. How big was that sale? 140 million.
Yeah, the asking was, it was just under 140 million.
Well, you're going to have to come back on Impact again, because the next time you want to do a big deal, I mean, dude, this will be a thing.
You're the reason.
Yeah, well, I want to be part of something. I mean, for our listeners out there, that story of, I don't want to go into that story necessarily today, but it's one of my favorite stories in your book, on when they came to film you, do the test run, whatever it's called, the screen test for $1 million listing, how the day ended early and how you figured out how to get out of the day and make it seem like you used actually a girl who had basically dumped you in a very sweet but nice way. You used her lie to literally blow off the cast when you were out of stuff to do with them right after your boxing lesson and after one of your tours. One of the great stories in your books, another great anecdote. But for those who want to read it, it's in Big Money Energy. You got to read his book, bigmoneyenergy.com, amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, or of course you could get it on his website, ryanserhant.com. He just closed a $140 million deal. Do we need to say more about, like, do you need to buy this book? Come on, Ryan. I mean, like, honestly, the show could be over now, but there's so much to go into. Going back to we talked about, this is the toolkit. This is the mindset. As you said, 2020 brought external anxiety and external pressures that nobody was really equipped to deal with. And now that we're into 2021, getting back off the canvas and getting on with it is really what you cover in here. Talk a little bit about what you mean in Big Money Energy with be the future you now. Be the future you now. What do you mean by that?
Yeah. So a lot of people tell me, they're like, okay, so so what did you do? How did you start working with luxury clients? How did you pick yourself up and start running around? Would you just fake it till you make it? Like, a lot of people talk about that, right? Fake it till you make it. Tell everyone you're great and you'll just be great.
Right.
And there is some truth to that, right? Okay. I believe in the power of positive energy. I believe in vision boards. I've got a whiteboard in my office right here that's got all our goals, and I better fucking hit them, right? But I do not believe in being disingenuous. I do not believe in not being authentic to yourself. And I don't think you should ever lie. I believe that you have the power to be the absolute biggest and best version of yourself whenever you're ready. Maybe you're ready today, maybe you're not.
Right.
Okay? I believed after I did that deal that I was ready today. And I didn't want to wait 10 years. Okay? I wanted to start being the best real estate broker in the United States tomorrow. Was I going to have the resume to prove it? Absolutely not. Was I going to have the experience to be able to talk about 1,500 deals and this, that, the other? No way. But could I start carrying myself in such a way where I would humbly be able to walk into rooms as somebody who knew exactly what he was doing? Big Money Energy is all about knowing what you want and going and getting it, right? It is big magnetic energy. It's the ability to control your energy so you can control your life, so you can attract success to you and not sit and wait for opportunity, because that's what I noticed the most successful people in the room were doing. And I wanted that, right? I wanted that. And the first way you get there is you have to have a plan. Okay? So we're talking about you. We're talking about mindset. We're talking about your life. Right. So what is your plan for your life? Write it down. Who are you going to be in the future? Right? For me right now, I think about Ryan 2030. 2030 all day long. Because 10 years ago, it was like yesterday to me. It goes by so fast.
Right.
But Ryan 2030. Okay. I think about Ryan 2030, and I think about who that guy is going to be and how I can make that guy's life awesome. So for you and anyone listening, you don't have to go out 10 years or 9 years. You can go out 2 years. Okay. You can go out 24 months. Yeah. Write down who that person is. What do they look like? What do they weigh? right? If that matters to you.
Right,
Who
right.
are they with? Or do they have more kids? Are they on vacation? Are you in a new job, a new car? Like, get real materialistic, write it all down. Who are you in 2 years? That is now your goal. That's future you. That person, you don't have all those things today, but you can start being her or him right now. Start carrying yourself with those shoulders right now. And I am telling you, if you do that and you believe it more than anyone else, you will become that person, but better. Right? There's something to be said. Like, remind me where you're based.
We're in California, in Fresno, California, but I have an office in New York and we have facilities across America.
Okay. You know, there was so Tom Brady just won his 7th Super Bowl, right?
Right.
And there is something that people on the defense, when they play against him, always say, like, is he the best athlete? No way.
No way.
But man, oh man, that guy believes so solidly that he is the absolute best, that he causes everyone else to have doubt in their own abilities, so they don't play as well. Right? We literally just watched that happen on TV, where like the greatest quarterback physically, athletically, what he can do, Mahomes, was so intimidated by Brady in the Super Bowl that he didn't play as good because Brady believed in himself so much more. Like, it's amazing how real that becomes. So if you believe in yourself, everybody else will. Right?
Ryan, I love that. But also, you make it so clear in your books, your preparation level, as you just said about the Jun Shen meeting, but just even in your daily practice, your discipline is amazing. Brady's discipline is unmatched. Giselle and the kids moved out of the house 12 days prior to the Super Bowl. She herself is a superstar, near billionaire model. They moved out of the house so he could watch film for 12 days without any interruption. You have a routine. You're up at 4:30.
Yeah.
You intermittent fast. 12 to 6 is how you eat.
Yeah.
You watch what you eat. You exercise every day. Talk a little bit about discipline equaling freedom, discipline equaling success. And that's part of getting your mindset right, getting your body right, getting your whole persona and look and lifestyle right to win. Talk a little bit about how you do it and how you coach others to do it as well, especially here in Big Money Energy.
Yeah. Discipline reminds me a lot of my parents and my dad disciplining us. And so I make a lot of choices and I stick to them, right? Professionals make decisions based on their commitments. Amateurs make decisions based on their feelings, how they feel that day.
Right.
So I make choices that in turn become commitments, and I do not waver off of them because I'm an adult. I am a professional. Why would I make a choice and make a commitment and then not do it? Like, all I'm doing is showing that I'm not a professional. I'm not an adult. So if you want to be a kid, go be a kid. Those choices help really set me free because it also gives me something to lock into. And my routine becomes my rock, right? That's it. That's my routine. That's how I do it. And it allows me to add in flexibility if and when I need to, but it keeps me busy so that at the end of the day, man, and I just started this company 4 months ago, my own real estate firm after I was at another brokerage for 12 years. I want to be too busy to fail. I don't even want to have to think about failure and think about overhead and think about all those things that'll just, get into my head. I want to be so busy and have so much going on that I don't even have time to fail. Even if we get close to it, I missed it. So
let's talk about those 3 M's that you talk about in this book: magnetism, mindset, and motivation. First one is, you say, shed your work PTSD. What does that mean? That's interesting. And I know it's in the book. Talk about to our listeners what that means.
So that means we all carry baggage.
Right.
Okay. And you can't be free. You can't start working on future you unless you remove excess baggage. Okay. And a lot of us carry our past into our present. Okay. So that's one thing that you have to learn on removing. Right. And one of the ways, you can do that is with effective time management. And there's different ways that you can let go. I understand grief. Okay, I understand there's a lot of things that that will be with you forever, and they're
Right.
part of your makeup, and that's
Right.
totally fine. But a lot of us have like work PTSD with a past boss or employee or something happened at work, and it affects all of your work going forward. Right? You have to leave all of that stuff at the door, because it is absolutely meaningless. And I go into how to do that all.
Right. Good. Talk about killing problems that pollute, and give that the anecdote on the blanket, the $40 million blanket anecdote.
Yeah, I was selling a house, a beach house, a $40 million beach house in the Hamptons 2 years ago, and it was completely crazy. And the deal was coming as $40 million for the house, completely furnished. And then at the last minute, the seller added in a rider that said they wanted 5 things to stay: the pizza oven and a bunch of stuff and a blanket. So instead of going to the client and saying, "Hey, what about this?" Right, you control the situation, which is what I did. I controlled the situation, and I went back to the sellers and I said, "Hey, if I bring this to my client, there's no deal. You make up your mind." They got angry. They yelled. They screamed, up, 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 up. Said, you make me bring this to my client. I don't care how cheap this stuff is. You told us you would sell it for $40 million fully furnished, and now you're not. Okay. So they removed everything but the blanket. So the blanket became this disease, became this problem. And so that entire chapter is really all about how to effectively communicate, right? Especially with really successful people. So how to communicate like a boss, right? And the way you do that is think about a high-end doctor. If you got problems, they're not coming in just ripping through all your problems. No, they think about their words. They think about what they say to you. They space things out, and they tell you what you need to hear, because you don't always need to hear everything. And the whole reason you go to that doctor is because they're the expert, right? They're the expert.
Right.
They'll tell me what I need to know. And I behave the same way, and people with big money energy behave the same way. If I had gone to my client and said, "Hey, just so you know, they're keeping this blanket. It's $100. I'm buying you a new one," it would have been down to principle, because when you deal with billionaires, it's always about principle.
Right.
So he would have said no. He would have said, "No problem. Keep the blanket and I'll keep my 40 million. No problem." And so I held firm. I held the line. I put the deal on the line. It was very risky. I could have just lied to him and said, "Hey, everything's good," but it just wouldn't have sat right with me. And the sellers acquiesced, and they sold the place, and they gave us their stupid blanket. And the buyer never knew, and we still move forward, because that's what I care about, is getting deals done.
The other thing you talk about, magnetism, mindset, and motivation, just saying yes, even if you don't feel ready. First of all, you already gave the Jun Shen story that talks to that. You gave the $1 million listing story that talks to just saying yes, even if you don't feel ready right away. Also, you give a story about being in Mexico or somewhere like that with your sister, getting sunburned, being in a movie theater, and getting an email, and just like things changing, but then working everything with confidence. Let's go back to what you just said. You started a company. You left the brokerage house, which was very comfy, for 12 years.
Super comfy.
Super comfy. You could have stayed there forever and a day. You could have stayed there and never have to leave those creature comforts that you had, business comforts, your routine. Why start your own firm during a pandemic when everyone said, "Oh my God, New York everyone's vacating. They're going to Miami. They're going to Dallas. They're going to the Hamptons and never coming back to the city. The city's never going to be the same ever, ever, never, ever." And you did something counterintuitive as the ultimate entrepreneur, and you started your own real estate firm. Explain that, saying yes, even if maybe the world didn't understand that kind of thinking.
Why do mountain climbers climb mountains? Because they're there, right? I built a large sales team. We were the number one selling sales team in New York for 3 years in a row. What was I going to do? Do it again? Do it again? Do it again? No. Sometimes you need to shake shit up and try new things. The next best step for me was starting my own place. And that's what we did in New York in the middle of a pandemic, when New York was completely shut down and 1 million people moved out.
Got it. And this is this way overblown? New York's never going to be the same. What's your thought process on real estate now in New York and other great places that you're selling real estate? You're going to become, as you're still so young and have decades in front of you. What's going to happen post pandemic? And how's your firm been doing the first 4 months? I know it's still top of the first inning here, but what's your outlook now on everything?
I will tell you, and then I'm going to have to let you go because I'm in the middle of a lot of things blowing up in front of me, and I'm actually a real estate broker full time.
Okay.
The outlook is great, man. It is rosy. It is bright. Things are awesome. Things were not great last year, but it can't rain all the time. So it is exciting to be in the position where we're in right now, and it's the future, man. Like, it's crazy. The things we could do, the information we can transfer, the stuff that's just at our fingertips. It's the most exciting it's ever been. And it'll continue to be the most exciting ever. And that's what excites me about the future. We can sell things anywhere. We can do whatever we want to be successful. If you want to be, and if you don't want to be, no problem. You can do whatever you want. Stay home, like move out, go to the beach, sit in a hut, sleep there, eat fish. Like, you can do whatever you want. And I think that's awesome, right? Freedom of choice is what keeps me going. And I
love it. And I appreciate all your time today. I know you're closing one of the biggest transactions ever in your career and in American US history. You go back to closing that. For our listeners out there, he's Ryan Serhant. You can find him at Ryan Serhant, SERHANT.com. Of course, watch him on $1 Million Listing. He's got a new podcast. He has a new television show called Selling It Like Serhant. This is the toolkit. Buy it if you want to be a great entrepreneur or salesperson, this is the toolkit. And this is big money, energy, BME. This is the mindset. Get them both. Be like Ryan Serhant.
Thanks, man.
Ryan the Lion, we love you. You're always welcome back here. Hope to meet you one day in person. Go close that deal, man.
All right. See ya.
Take care. This edition of the Impact Podcast is brought to you by Engage. Engage is a digital booking engine revolutionizing the talent booking industry. With hundreds of athletes, entrepreneurs, speakers, and business leaders, Engage is the go-to spot for booking talent for your next event. For more information, please visit letsengage.com.